Tonight, you'll be dozing off from the backseat of your parents' car, softly cradled by the gentle hum of the engine as it travels homeward late at night along a country highway. Imagine you are sitting in the back seat with your head nestled into a cozy pillow propped against the window. You are gazing out at the moonlit countryside, and on your face is a soft and secret smile. It's late Friday night, after playing in the pep band at your brother's basketball game far from home. Your kid sister has nodded off already. She's laying across the wide seat with her head resting softly in your lap. You are tired too after a long week of high school and homework, but you're also full of wonder, and that smile on your face is perfectly concealed in the shadows, only illuminated sporadically by the flickering flashes of light cast from the headlights of oncoming cars. You rest your forehead against the cool glass of the window. Every now and then, a distant farmhouse light appears, towering like a lighthouse in the dark, casting bright beams across the endless, waterless ocean of a prairie. Now, slowly we'll begin to relax. First, with eyes closed, just become aware of your breathing, feeling your chest gently rise and fall again. Next, we'll try taking a few deeper breaths, filling our lungs with air, holding it, and then gently exhaling and letting it all go. Ready? Inhale deeply, hold for 3, 2, 1, and then exhale. One more time. Breathe in deeply, hold for 3, 2, 1, and then exhale. And try thinking to yourself, as I sit here in the back seat, I can feel gravity's pull tugging me gently back towards Earth. With every exhale, I can feel the weight of the day slipping away. I can feel my feet, my ankles, calves, knees, and my legs, each part of me relaxing deeper and becoming heavier and more relaxed. Up in the front seat, your parents recap and relive the big game. They talk of jump shots and fouls, rebounds and timeouts. You close your eyes, but when you picture the crowded gymnasium, you remember something much sweeter than basketball. Your mind drifts back, but now the memory of the night is soothing and hypnotic, somehow quieter, as if it all played out in slow motion. Sneakers squeaking on the hardwood floor, cheers blasting out from spirit sections choreographed by cheerleaders and mascots. The aroma of popcorn and hot dogs snaking its way from concessions all the way through the hot air, above the teams and players and referees, and then high into the packed stands where you and the band played and cheered and sang. You quietly reflect on how unexpected your first love appeared in your young life. It feels as if the universe brought it to you slowly, and yet, in the end, also unexpectedly in a flash. Now let's try taking a few more deep breaths. Ready? Breathe in deeply. Hold for 3, 2, 1, and then exhale. Try continuing on your own, and while doing this, try thinking to yourself, as I sit here, my whole body feels heavy and relaxed. With every exhale, I can feel gravity pulling me back towards Earth gently. I can feel my head, my shoulders, my neck becoming relaxed and at ease. And my legs are heavy and at peace with gravity's pull. Now my whole body, my legs and feet, my arms and hands, my torso, my head and neck and shoulders, my whole body is completely at peace, relaxed, and at ease. For weeks and weeks at band practice and at games, you had played right there next to each other, bumping elbows, close enough to catch quick flashes of fragrances, close enough for smiles, quick glances, silly and innocent flirtations without considering really when and where or if you might actually ever kiss. And then, unexpectedly, tonight, it just happened. while the whole gymnasium was on its feet, the whole world preoccupied with some monumental moment of a basketball game. It just happened right there in the minuscule universe between the two of you. When you think about it now, falling in love was a lot like those farmhouse lights out there in the darkness. Everything approached so slowly at first, off in the distance, hardly moving at all. And then, love gained momentum and approached you carefully and timidly, getting closer and closer, and before you knew it, before you both knew it, true love had rushed up on you in a heartbeat, irresistible and suddenly undeniable. You smile now, thinking how you had always imagined your first kiss would happen somewhere private and hidden, and yet, in the end, yours was out in the open and in front of hundreds of people who never even saw it. As your parents dial in the AM radio, you finally close your eyes and lean back. Tonight's reading from the Journal of the First Voyage of Columbus begins with Tuesday, December 4th, and continues through Thursday, December 20th, 1492. We rejoin the admiral coasting the north of Hispaniola, taking shelter first in the narrow, hidden Puerto de San Nicolas. Then, after rain and thick weather in the calm entrance, he names Puerto de la Concepcion, where the air feels like April in Castile and nightingales sing. With light and contrary winds, he stands over to Tortuga, naming its headlands and long beaches, before returning to the green shores of Hispaniola to mark depths, sound river mouths, and note valleys and villages with quiet exchanges of beads for cotton and thin leaves of gold. By December 19th and 20th, he threads reefs into a vast, landlocked haven between the islet he names Santo Tomas and the highland of Caribao, beneath mountains so lofty they seem to touch the sky, an anchorage he praises as safe against any storm. Journal of the First Voyage of Columbus. Tuesday, 4th of December. The admiral made sail with little wind and left that port, which he called Puerto Santo. After going 2 leagues, he saw the great river of which he spoke yesterday. Passing along the land and beating to windward on southeast and west-northwest courses, they reached Cabo Lindo, which is east-southeast, 5 leagues from Cabo del Monte. A league and a half from Cabo del Monte, there is an important but rather narrow river, which seemed to have a good entrance and to be deep. 3/4 of a league further on, the admiral saw another very large river, and he thought it must have its source at a great distance. It had 100 paces at its mouth, and no bar, with a depth of 8 fathoms. The admiral sent the boat in to take soundings, and they found the water fresh until it enters the sea. This river had great volume and must have a large population on its banks. Beyond Cabo Lindo there is a great bay which would be open for navigation to east-northeast and southeast and south-southwest. Wednesday, 5th of December. All this night they were beating to windward off Cape Lindo to reach the land to the east, and at sunrise the admiral sighted another cape, 2.5 leagues to the east. Having passed it, he saw that the land trended south and southwest, and presently saw a fine high cape in that direction, 7 leagues distant. He would have wished to go there, but his object was to reach the island of Babec, which, according to the Indians, bore northeast, so he gave up the intention. He could not go to Babec either, because the wind was northeast. Looking to the southeast, he saw land, which was a very large island, according to the information of the Indians, well-peopled and called by them Bohio. The admiral says that the inhabitants of Cuba, or Juana, and of all the other islands, are much afraid of the inhabitants of Bohio, because they say that they eat people. The Indians relate other things by signs which are very wonderful, but the admiral did not believe them. He only inferred that those of Bohio must have more cleverness and cunning to be able to capture the others, who, however, are very poor-spirited. The wind veered from northeast to north, so the admiral determined to leave Cuba, or Juana, which, up to this time, he had supposed to be the mainland on account of its size, having coasted along it for 120 leagues. He shaped a course southeast by east, the land he had sighted bearing southeast, taking this precaution because the wind always veered from north to northeast again, and thence to east and southeast. The wind increased, and he made all sail, the current helping them, so that they were making 8 miles an hour from the morning until 1 in the afternoon, which is barely 6 hours, for they say that the nights were nearly 15 hours. Afterwards, they went 10 miles an hour, making good 88 miles by sunset, equal to 22 leagues, all to the southeast. As night was coming on, the admiral ordered the caravel Nina, being a good sailor, to proceed ahead so as to sight a harbor at daylight. Arriving at the entrance of a port which was like the Bay of Cadiz, while it was still dark, a boat was sent in to take soundings, which showed a light from a lantern. Before the admiral could beat up to where the caravel was, hoping that the boat would show a leading mark for entering the port, the candle in the lantern went out. The caravel, not seeing the light, showed a light to the admiral, and running down to him, related what had happened. The boat's crew then showed another light, and the caravel made for it, but the admiral could not do so, and was standing off and on all night. Thursday, 6th of December. When daylight arrived, the admiral found himself 4 leagues from the port, to which he gave the name of Puerto Maria, and to a fine cape bearing south-southwest he gave the name of Cabo de la Estrella. It seemed to be the furthest point of the island towards the south, distant 28 miles. Another point of land, like an island, appeared about 40 miles to the east. To another fine point, 54 miles to the east, he gave the name of Cabo del Elefante, and he called another, 28 miles to the southeast, Cabo de Cinquin. There was a great opening or bay, which might be the mouth of a river, distant 20 miles. It seemed that between Cabo del Elefante and that of Cinquin, there was a great opening, and some of the sailors said that it formed an island to which the name of Isla de la Tortuga was given. The island appeared to be very high land, not closed in with mountains, but with beautiful valleys, well cultivated, the crops appearing like the wheat on the plain of Cordova in May. That night they saw many fires and much smoke, as if from workshops in the daytime. It appeared to be a signal made by people who were at war. All the coast of this land trends to the east. At the hour of vespers, the admiral reached this port, to which he gave the name of Puerto de San Nicolas, in honor of Saint Nicolas. Nicholas, whose day it was, and on entering it, he was astonished at its beauty and excellence. Although he had given great praise to the ports of Cuba, he had no doubt that this one not only equaled but excelled them, and none of them are like it. At the entrance it is 1.5 leagues wide, and a vessel's head should be turned southeast, though, owing to the great width, she may be steered on any bearing that is convenient. Proceeding on this course for 2 leagues. On the south side of the entrance, the coast forms a cape, and thence the course is almost the same as far as a point where there is a fine beach and a plain covered with fruit-bearing trees of many kinds, so that the admiral thought there must be nutmegs and other spices among them, but he did not know them, and they were not ripe. There is a river falling into the harbor near the middle of the beach. The depth of this port is surprising, for until reaching the land, for a distance of the lead did not reach the bottom at 40 fathoms, and up to this length there are 15 fathoms, with a very clean bottom. Throughout the port there is a depth of 15 fathoms, with a clean bottom at a short distance from the shore, and all along the coast there are soundings with clean bottom, and not a single sunken rock. Inside, at the length of a boat's oar from the land, there are 5 fathoms. Beyond the limit of the port, to the south-southeast, 1,000 carracks could beat up. One branch of the port to the northeast runs into the land for a long half-league, and always the same width, as if it had been measured with a cord. Being in this creek, which is 25 paces wide, the principal entrance to the harbor is not in sight, so that it appears landlocked. The depth of this creek is 11 fathoms throughout, all with clean bottom, and close to the land, where one might put the gangboards on the grass, there are 8 fathoms. The whole port is open to the air and clear of trees. All the island appeared to be more rocky than any that had been discovered. The trees are smaller, and many of them of the same kinds as are found in Spain, such as the ilex, the arbutus, and others, and it is the same with the herbs. It is a very high country, all open and clear, with a very fine air, and no such cold has been met with elsewhere, though it cannot be called cold, except by comparison. Towards the front of the haven, there is a beautiful valley, watered by a river, and in that district there must be many inhabitants, judging from the number of large canoes, like galleys, with 15 benches. All the natives fled as soon as they saw the ships. The Indians who were on board had such a longing to return to their homes that the admiral considered whether he should not take them back when he should depart from here. They were already suspicious because he did not shape a course towards their country, whence he neither believed what they said, nor could he understand them, nor they him properly. The Indians on board had the greatest fear in the world of the people of this island. In order to get speech of the people, it would be necessary to remain some days in harbor, but the admiral did not do so because he had to continue his discoveries, and because he could not tell how long he might be detained. He trusted in our Lord that the Indians he brought with him would understand the language of the people of this island, and afterwards he would communicate with them, trusting that it might please God's majesty that he might find trade in gold before he returned. Friday, 7th of December. At daybreak the admiral got under way, made sail, and left the port of St. Nicholas. He went on with the wind in the west for 2 leagues until he reached the point which forms the Carenero, when the angle in the coast bore southeast, and the Cabo de la Estrella was 24 miles to the southwest. Thence he steered along the coast eastward to Cabo Cinquin, about 48 miles, 20 of them being on an east-northeast coast. All the coast is very high with a deep sea. Close inshore there are 20 to 30 fathoms, and at the distance of a Lombard shot there is no bottom. All which the admiral discovered that day as he sailed along the coast with the wind southwest, much to his satisfaction. The cape, which runs out in the port of St. Nicholas the length of a shot from a Lombard, could be made an island by cutting across it, while to sail round it is a circuit of 3 or 4 miles. All that land is very high, not clothed with very high trees, but with ilex, arbutus, and others proper to the land of Castile. Before reaching Cape Cinquin by 2 leagues, the admiral discovered a small roadstead, like an opening in the mountains, through which he could see a very large valley covered with crops like barley, and he therefore judged that it must sustain a large population. Behind there was a high range of mountains. On reaching Cabo Cinquin, the Cabo de la Tortuga bore northeast 32 miles. Off Cabo Cinquin, at the distance of a Lombard shot, there is a high rock which is a good landmark. The admiral being there, he took the bearing of Cabo del Elefante, which was east-southeast, about 70 miles, the intervening land being very high. At a distance of 6 leagues there was a conspicuous cape, and he saw many large valleys and plains and high mountains inland, all reminding him of Spain. After 8 leagues he came to a very deep but narrow river, though a carrack might easily enter it, and the mouth without bar or rocks. After 16 miles there was a wide and deep harbor, with on bottom at the entrance, nor, at 3 paces from the shore, less than 15 fathoms. And it runs inland a quarter of a league. It being yet very early, only 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and the wind being aft and blowing fresh. Yet as the sky threatened much rain, and it was very thick, which is dangerous even on a known coast, how much more in an unknown country, the admiral resolved to enter the port, which he called Puerto de la Concepcion. He landed near a small river at the point of the haven, flowing from valleys and plains, the beauty of which was a marvel to behold. He took fishing nets with him, and before he landed, a mullet, like those of Spain, jumped into the boat, this being the first time they had seen fish resembling the fish of Castile. The sailors caught and killed others, and soles and other fish like those of Castile. Walking a short distance inland, the admiral found much land under cultivation, and heard the singing of nightingales and other birds of Castile. 5 men were seen, but they would not stop, running away. The admiral found myrtles and other trees and plants like those of Castile, and so also were the land and mountains. Saturday, 8th of December. In this port there was heavy rain with a fresh breeze from the north. The harbor is protected from all winds except the north, but even this can do no harm whatever, because there is a great surf outside, which prevents such a sea within the river as would make a ship work on her cables. After midnight the wind veered to northeast, and then to east, from which winds this port is well sheltered by the island of Tortuga, distant 36 miles. Sunday, 9th of December. Today it rained, and the weather was wintry, like October Castile. No habitations had been seen except a very beautiful house in the Puerto de S. Nicolas, which was better built than any that had been in other parts. The island is very large, says the admiral. It would not be much if it has a circumference of 200 leagues. All the parts he had seen were well cultivated. He believed that the villages must be at a distance from the sea, whither they went when the ships arrived. For they all took to flight, taking everything with them, and they made smoke signals, like a people at war. This port has a width of 1,000 paces at its entrance, equal to a quarter of a league. There is neither bank nor reef within, and there are scarcely soundings close inshore. Its length running inland is 3,000 paces, all clean and with a sandy bottom, so that any ship may anchor in it without fear and enter it without precaution. At the upper end there are the mouths of 2 rivers with the most beautiful champagne country, almost like the lands of Spain. These even have the advantage, for which reasons the admiral gave the name of the said island Isla Española. Monday, 10th of December. It blew hard from the northeast, which made them drag their anchors half a cable's length. This surprised the admiral, who had seen that the anchors had taken good hold of the ground. As he saw that the wind was foul for the direction in which he wanted to steer, he sent 6 men on shore, well armed, to go 2 or 3 leagues inland and endeavor to open communications with the natives. They came and returned without having seen either people or houses, but they found some hovels, wide roads, and some places where many fires had been made. They saw excellent lands and many mastic trees, some specimens of which they took. But this is not the time for collecting it, as it does not coagulate. Tuesday, the 11th of December. The admiral did not depart because the wind was still east and southeast. In front of this port, as has been said, is the island of La Tortuga. It appears to be a large island with the coast almost like that of Española, and the distance between them is about 10 leagues. It is well to know that from the Cabo de Cinquin, opposite Tortuga, the coast trends to the south. The admiral had a great desire to see that channel between these 2 islands, and to examine the island of Española, which is the most beautiful thing in the world. According to what the Indians said who were on board, he would have to go to the island of Babec. They declared that it was very large, with great mountains, rivers, and valleys, and that the island of Bohia was larger than Juana, which they call Cuba, and that it is not surrounded by water. They seem to imply that there is mainland behind Española, and they call it Caritaba, and say it is of vast extent. They have reason in saying that the inhabitants are a clever race, for all the people of these islands are in great fear of those of Canaba. So the admiral repeats what he has said before, that Canaba is nothing else but the Grand Khan, who ought now to be very near. He sends ships to capture the islanders, and as they do not return, their countrymen believe that they have been eaten. Each day, we understand better what the Indians say, and they us, so that very often we are intelligible to each other. The admiral sent people on shore who found a great deal of mastic, but did not gather it. He says that the rains make it and that in Chios they collect it in March. In these lands, being warmer, they might take it in January. They caught many fish like those of Castile, dace, salmon, hake, dory, giltheads, mullets, corbinas, shrimps, and they saw sardines. They found many aloes. Wednesday, 12th of December. The admiral did not leave the port today for the same reason, a contrary wind. He set up a great cross on the west side of the entrance, on a very picturesque height. In sign, he says, that your highnesses hold this land for your own, but chiefly as a sign of our Lord Jesus Christ. This being done, 3 sailors strolled into the woods to see the trees and bushes. Suddenly, they came upon a crowd of people, all naked like the rest. They called to them and went towards them, but they ran away. At last they caught a woman, for I had ordered that some should be caught, that they might be treated well and made to lose their fear. This would be a useful event, for it could scarcely be otherwise, considering the beauty of the country. So they took the woman, who was very young and beautiful, to the ship, where she talked to the Indians on board, for they all speak the same language. The admiral caused her to be dressed, and gave her glass beads, hawk's bells, and brass ornaments. Then he sent her back to the shore very courteously, according to his custom. He sent 3 of the crew with her, and 3 of the Indians he had on board, that they might open communications with her people. The sailors in the boat who took her on shore told the admiral that she did not want to leave the ship, but would rather remain with the other women he had seized at the port of Maris, in the island of Juana or Cuba. The Indians who went to put the woman on shore said that the natives came in a canoe, which is their caravel in which they navigate from one place to another. But when they came to the entrance of the harbor and saw the ships, they turned back, left the canoe, and took the road to the village. The woman pointed out the position of the village. She had a piece of gold in her nose, which showed that there was gold in that island. Thursday, 13th of December. The 3 men who had been sent by the admiral with the woman returned at 3 o'clock in the morning, not having gone with her to the village, because the distance appeared to be long, or because they were afraid. They said that next day many people would come to the ships, as they would have been reassured by the news brought them by the woman. The admiral, with the desire of ascertaining whether there were any profitable commodities in that land, being so beautiful and fertile, and of having some speech with the people, and being desirous of serving the sovereigns, determined to send again to the village, trusting in the news brought by the woman that the Christians were good people. For this service he selected 9 men well armed and suited for such an enterprise, with whom an Indian went from those who were on board. They reached the village, which is 4.5 leagues to the southeast, and found that it was situated in a very large and open valley. As soon as the inhabitants saw the Christians coming, they all fled inland, leaving all their goods behind them. The village consisted of 1,000 houses, with over 3,000 inhabitants. The Indian whom the Christians had brought with them ran after the fugitives, saying that they should have no fear, for the Christians did not come from Cariba, but were from heaven, and that they gave many beautiful things to all the people they met. They were so impressed with what he said that upwards of 2,000 came close up to the Christians, putting their hands on their heads, which was a sign of great reverence and friendship, and they were all trembling until they were reassured. The Christians related that as soon as the natives had cast off their fear, they all went to the houses, and each one brought what he had to eat, consisting of yams, which are roots like large radishes, which they sow and cultivate in all their lands, and is their staple food. They make bread of it and roast it. The yam has the smell of a chestnut, and anyone would think he was eating chestnuts. They gave their guests bread and fish, and all they had. As the Indians who came in the ship had understood that the admiral wanted to have some parrots, one of those who accompanied the Spaniards mentioned this, and the natives brought out parrots and gave them as many as they wanted without asking anything for them. The natives asked the Spaniards not to go that night, and that they would give them many other things that they had in the mountains. While all these people were with the Spaniards, a great multitude was seen to come, with the husband of the woman whom the admiral had honored and sent away. They wore hair over their shoulders, and came to give thanks to the Christians for the honor the admiral had done them, and for the gifts. The Christians reported to the admiral that this was a handsomer and finer people than any that had hitherto been met with. But the admiral says that he does not see how they can be a finer people than the others, giving to understand that all those he had found in the other islands were very well conditioned. As regards beauty, the Christians said there was no comparison, both men and women, and that their skins are whiter than the others. They saw 2 girls whose skins were as white as any that could be seen in Spain. They also said, with regard to the beauty of the country they saw, that the best land in Castile could not be compared with it. The admiral also, comparing the lands they had seen before with these, said that there was no comparison between them, nor did the plain of Cordova come near them, the difference being as great as between night and day. They said that all these lands were cultivated, and that a very wide and large river passed through the center of the valley, and could irrigate all the fields. All the trees were green and full of fruit, and the plants tall and covered with flowers. The roads were broad and good. The climate was like April in Castile. The nightingale and other birds sang as they do in Spain during that month, and it was the most pleasant place in the world. Some birds sing sweetly at night. The crickets and frogs are heard a good deal. The fish are like those of Spain. They saw much aloe and mastic and cotton fields. Gold was not found, and it is not wonderful that it should not have been found in so short a time. Here the admiral calculated the number of hours in the day and night, and from sunrise to sunset, he found that 20 half-hour glasses passed, though he says that here there may be a mistake, either because they were not turned with equal quickness, or because some sand may not have passed. He also observed with a quadrant, and found that he was 34 degrees from the equinoctial line. Friday, 14th of December. The admiral left the Puerto de la Concepcion with the land breeze, but soon afterwards it fell calm, and this is experienced every day by those who are on this coast. Later, an east wind sprang up, so he steered north-northeast and arrived at the island of Tortuga. He sighted a point which he named Punta Pierna, east-northeast of the end of the island 12 miles, and from thence another point was seen and named Punta Lanzada in the same northeast direction 16 miles. Thus, from the end of Tortuga to Punta Aguda, the distance is 44 miles, which is 11 leagues east-northeast. Along this route, there are several long stretches of beach. The island of Tortuga is very high, but not mountainous, and is very beautiful and populous like Española, and the land is cultivated so that it looked like the plain of Cordova. Seeing that the wind was foul, and that he could not steer for the island of Bannock, he determined to return to the Puerto de la Concepcion, whence he had come, but he could not fetch a river which is 2 leagues to the east of that port. Saturday, 15th of December. Once more the admiral left the Puerto de la Concepcion, but on leaving the port he was again met by a contrary east wind. He stood over to Tortuga, and then steered with the object of exploring the river he had been unable to reach yesterday. Nor was he able to fetch the river this time, but he anchored half a league to leeward of it, where there was clean and good anchoring ground. As soon as the vessels were secured, he went with the boats to the river, entering an arm of the sea which proved not to be the river. Returning, he found the mouth, there being only one, and the current very strong. He went in with the boats to find the villagers that had been seen the day before. He ordered a tow rope to be got out and manned by the sailors, who hauled the boats up for a distance of 2 Lombard shots. They could not get further owing to the strength of the current. He saw some houses and the large valley where the villages were, and he said that a more beautiful valley he had never seen, this river flowing through the center of it. He also saw people at the entrance, but they all took to flight. He further says that these people must be much hunted, for they live in such a state of fear. When the ships arrived at any port, they presently made signals by fires on heights throughout the country. And this is done more in this island of Española and in Tortuga, which is also a large island, than in the others that were visited before. He called this valley Valle del Paraíso and the river Guadalquivir, because he says that it is the size of the Guadalquivir at Cordova. The banks consist of shingle, suitable for walking. Sunday, the 16th of December. At midnight, the admiral made sail with the land breeze to get clear of that gulf. Passing along the coast of Hispaniola on a bowline, for the wind had veered to the east, he met a canoe in the middle of the Gulf, with a single Indian in it. The admiral was surprised how he could have kept afloat with such a gale blowing. Both the Indian and his canoe were taken on board, and he was given glass beads, bells, and brass trinkets, and taken in the ship until she was off a village 17 miles from the former anchorage, where the admiral came to again. The village appeared to have been lately built, for all the houses were new. The Indian then went on shore in his canoe, bringing the news that the admiral and his companions were good people, although the intelligence had already been conveyed to the village from the place where the natives had their interview with the 6 Spaniards. Presently, more than 500 natives with their king came to the shore opposite the ships, which were anchored very close to the land. Presently, one by one, then many by many, came to the ship without bringing anything with them, except that some had a few grains of very fine gold in their ears and noses, which they readily gave away. The admiral ordered them all to be well treated, and he says, "For they are the best people in the world and the gentlest. And above all, I entertain the hope in our Lord that your highnesses will make them all Christians, and that they will be all your subjects, for as yours I hold them." He also saw that they all treated the king with respect, who was on the seashore. The admiral sent him a present, which he received in great state. He was a youth of about 21 years of age, and he had with him an aged tutor and other counselors who advised and answered him, but he uttered very few words. One of the Indians who had come in the admiral's ship spoke to him, telling him how the Christians had come from heaven, and how they came in search of gold and wished to find the island of Banek. He said that it was well, and that there was much gold in the said island. He explained to the alguazil of the admiral that the way they were going was the right way, and that in 2 days they would be there, adding that if they wanted anything from the shore, he would give it them with great pleasure. This king, and all the others, go naked as their mothers bore them, as do the women without any covering, and these were the most beautiful men and women that had yet been met with. They are fairly white, and if they were clothed and protected from the sun and air, they would be almost as fair as people in Spain. This land is cool, and the best that words can describe. It is very high, yet the top of the highest mountain could be plowed with bullocks, and all is diversified with plains and valleys. In all Castile there is no land that can be compared with this for beauty and fertility. All this island, as well as the island of Tortuga, is cultivated like the plain of Cordova. They raise on these lands crops of yams, which are small branches, at the foot of which grow roots like carrots, which serve as bread. They powder and knead them and make them into bread. Then they plant the same branch in another part, which again sends out 4 or 5 of the same roots, which are very nutritious with the taste of chestnuts. Here they have the largest the admiral had seen in any part of the world, for he says that they have the same plant in Guinea. At this place they were as thick as a man's leg. All the people were stout and lusty, not thin, like the natives that had been seen before, and of a very pleasant manner without religious belief. The trees were so luxuriant that the leaves left off being green and were dark-colored with verdure. It was a wonderful thing to see those valleys and rivers of sweet water and the cultivated fields, and land fit for cattle, though they have none, for orchards, and for anything in the world that a man could seek for. In the afternoon the king came on board the ship, where the admiral received him in due form, and caused him to be told that the ships belonged to the sovereigns of Castile, who were the greatest princes in the world. But neither the Indians who were on board, who acted as interpreters, nor the king believed a word of it. They maintained that the Spaniards came from heaven, and that the sovereigns of Castile must be in heaven and not in this world. They placed Spanish food before the king to eat, and he ate a mouthful, and gave the rest to his counselors and tutor, and to the rest who came with him. Your highnesses may believe that these lands are so good and fertile, especially these of the island of Hispaniola, that there is no one who would know how to describe them, and no one who could believe if he had not seen them. And your highnesses may believe that this island, and all the others, are as much yours as Castile. Here there is only wanting a settlement and the order to the people to do what is required. For I, with the force I have under me, which is not large, could march over all these islands without opposition. I have seen only 3 sailors land without wishing to do harm, and a multitude of Indians fled before them. They have no arms and are without warlike instincts. They all go naked and are so timid that 1,000 would not stand before 3 of our men, so that they are good to be ordered about, to work and sow and do all that may be necessary, and to build towns, and they should be taught to go about clothed and to adopt our customs. Monday, 17th of December. It blew very hard during the night from east-northeast, but there was not much sea, as this part of the coast is enclosed and sheltered by the island of Tortuga. The sailors were sent away to fish with nets. They had much intercourse with the natives, who brought them certain arrows of the canaba or cannibales. They are made of reeds, pointed with sharp bits of wood hardened by fire, and are very long. They pointed out 2 men who wanted certain pieces of flesh on their bodies, giving to understand that the cannibales had eaten them by mouthfuls. The admiral did not believe it. Some Christians were again sent to the village, and in exchange for glass beads, obtained some pieces of gold beaten out into fine leaf. They saw one man, whom the admiral supposed to be governor of that province, called by them cacique, with a piece of gold leaf as large as a hand, and it appears that he wanted to barter with it. He went into his house, and the other remained in the open space outside. He cut the leaf into small pieces, and each time he came out, he brought a piece and exchanged it. When he had no more left, he said by signs that he had sent for more, and that he would bring it another day. The admiral says that all these things, and the manner of doing them, with their gentleness and the information they gave, showed these people to be more lively and intelligent than any that had hitherto been met with. In the afternoon, a canoe arrived from the island of Tortuga with a crew of 40 men, and when they arrived on the beach, all the people of the village sat down in sign of peace, and nearly all the crew came on shore. The cacique rose by himself, and with words that appeared to be of a menacing character, made them go back to the canoe and shove off. He took up stones from the beach and threw them into the water, all having obediently gone back into the canoe. He also took a stone and put it in the hands of my alguazil, that he might throw it. He had been sent on shore with the secretary to see if the canoe had brought anything of value. The alguazil did not wish to throw the stone. That cacique showed that he was well disposed to the admiral. Presently the canoe departed, and afterwards they said to the admiral that there was more gold in Tortuga than in Española, because it is nearer to Banec. The admiral did not think that there were gold mines either in Española or Tortuga, but that the gold was brought from Banec in small quantities, there being nothing to give in return. That land is so rich that there is no necessity to work much to sustain life, nor to clothe themselves as they go naked. He believed that they were very near the source, and that our Lord would point out where the gold has its origin. He had information that from here to Beneke was 4 days' journey, about 34 leagues, which might be traversed with a fair wind in a single day. Tuesday, the 18th of December. The admiral remained at the same anchorage because there was no wind, and also because the cacique had said that he had sent for gold. The admiral did not expect much from what might be brought, but he wanted to understand better whence it came. Presently he ordered the ship and caravel to be adorned with arms and dressed with flags in honor of the feast of Santa Maria de la O, or commemoration of the Annunciation, which was on that day, and many rounds were fired from the Lombards. The king of that island of Española had got up very early and left his house, which is about 5 leagues away, reaching the village at 3 in the morning. There were several men from the ship in the village who had been sent by the admiral to see if any gold had arrived. They said that the king came with 200 men, that he was carried in a litter by 4 men, and that he was a youth, as has already been said. Today, when the admiral was dining under the poop, the king came on board with all his people. The admiral says to the sovereigns, without doubt his state and the reverence with which he is treated by all his people would appear good to your highnesses, though they all go naked. When he came on board, he found that I was dining at a table under the poop, and at a quick walk he came to sit down by me and did not wish that I should give place by coming to receive him or rising from the table, but that I should go on with my dinner. I thought that he would like to eat of our viands, and ordered them to be brought for him to eat. When he came under the poop, he made signs with his hand that all the rest should remain outside, and so they did, with the greatest possible promptitude and reverence. They all sat on the deck, except the men of mature age, whom I believed to be his counselors and tutor, who came and sat at his feet. Of the viands which I put before him, he took of each as much as would serve to taste it, sending the rest to his people, who all partook of the dishes. The same thing in drinking. He just touched with his lips, giving the rest to his followers. They were all of fine presence and very few words. What they did say, so far as I could make out, was very clear and intelligent. The two at his feet watched his mouth, speaking to him and for him, and with much reverence. After dinner, an attendant brought a girdle, made like those of Castile, but of different material, which he took and gave to me, with pieces of worked gold, very thin. I believe they get very little here, but they say that they are very near the place where it is found, and where there is plenty. I saw that he was pleased with some drapery I had over my bed, so I gave it him, with some very good amber beads I wore on my neck, some colored shoes, and a bottle of orange flower water. He was marvelously well content, and both he and his tutor and counselors were very sorry that they could not understand me, nor I them. However, I knew that they said that if I wanted anything, the whole island was at my disposal. I sent for some beads of mine, with which, as a charm, I had a gold excellent, on which your highnesses were stamped. I showed it to him, and said, as I had done yesterday, that your highnesses ruled the best part of the world, and that there were no princes so great. I also showed him the royal standards, and the others with a cross, of which he thought much. He said to his counselors, what great lords your highnesses must be to have sent me from so far, even from heaven to this country, without fear. Many other things passed between them which I did not understand, except that it was easy to see that they held everything to be very wonderful. When it got late, and the king wanted to go, the admiral sent him on shore in his boat very honorably, and saluted him with many guns. Having landed, he got into his litter, and departed with his 200 men, his son being carried behind on the shoulders of an Indian, a man highly respected. All the sailors and people from the ships were given to eat, and treated with much honor wherever they liked to stop. One sailor said that he had stopped in the road and seen all the things given by the admiral. A man carried each one before the king, and these men appeared to be among those who were most respected. His son came a good distance behind the king, with a similar number of attendants, and the same with a brother of the king, except that the brother went on foot, supported under the arms by 2 honored attendants. This brother came to the ship after the king, and the admiral presented him with some of the things used for barter. It was then that the admiral learned that a king was called cacique in their language. This day little gold was got by barter, but the admiral heard from an old man that there were many neighboring islands at a distance of 100 leagues or more, as he understood, in which much gold is found. And there is even one island that was all gold. In the others, there was so much that it was said they gather it with sieves, and they fuse it and make bars, and work it in 1,000 ways. They explained the work by signs. This old man pointed out to the admiral the direction and position, and he determined to go there, saying that if the old man had not been a principal counselor of the king, he would detain him and make him go too. Or if he knew the language, he would ask him, and he believed, as the old man was friendly with him and the other Christians, that he would go of his own accord. But as these people were now subjects of the king of Castile, and it would not be right to injure them, he decided upon leaving him. The admiral set up a very large cross in the center of the square of that village, the Indians giving much help. They made prayers and worshipped it, and from the feeling they show, the admiral trusted in our Lord that all the people of those islands would become Christians. Wednesday, 19th of December. This night the admiral got under way to leave the gulf formed between the islands of Tortuga and Española, but at dawn of day a breeze sprang up from the east, against which he was unable to get clear of the strait between the two islands during the whole day. At night he was unable to reach a port which was in sight. He made out 4 points of land and a great bay with a river, and beyond he saw a large bay where there was a village with a valley behind it among high mountains covered with trees which appeared to be pines. Over the two brothers there is a very high mountain range running northeast and southwest, and east-southeast from the Cabo de Torres is a small island to which the admiral gave the name of Santo Tomas, because tomorrow was his vigil. The whole circuit of this island alternates with capes and excellent harbors, so far as could be judged from the sea. Before coming to the island on the west side, there's a cape which runs far into the sea, in part high, the rest low, and for this reason the admiral named it Cabo Alto y Bajo. From the road of Torres east by south 60 miles, there is a mountain higher than any that reaches the sea, and from a distance it looks like an island owing to a depression on the land side. It was named Monte Caribata because that province was called Caribata. It is very beautiful and covered with green trees without snow or clouds. The weather was then, as regards the air and temperature, like March in Castile, and as regards vegetation, like May. The nights lasted 14 hours. Thursday, 20th of December, at sunrise they entered a port between the island of Santo Tomas and the Cabo de Carabata and anchored. This port is very beautiful and would hold all the ships in Christendom. The entrance appears impossible from the sea to those who have never entered, owing to some reefs of rocks which run from the mountainous cape almost to the island. They are not placed in a row, but one here, another there, some towards the sea, others near the land. It is therefore necessary to keep a good lookout for the entrances, which are wide and with a depth of 7 fathoms, so that they can be used without fear. Inside the reefs there is a depth of 12 fathoms. A ship can lie with a cable made fast against any wind that blows. At the entrance of this port there is a channel on the west side of a sandy islet with 7 fathoms, and many trees on its shore. But there are many sunken rocks in that direction, and a lookout should be kept up until the port is reached. Afterwards there is no need to fear the greatest storm in the world. From this port a very beautiful cultivated valley is in sight, descending from the southeast, surrounded by such lofty mountains that they appear to reach the sky, and covered with green trees. Without doubt, there are mountains here which are higher than the island of Tenerife in the Canaries, which is held to be the highest yet known. On this side of the island of Santo Tomas, at a distance of a league, there is another islet, and beyond it another, forming wonderful harbors, though a good lookout must be kept for sunken rocks. The admiral also saw villages and smoke made by them.